Thanks everyone for being here. Welcome to our webinar. I say our webinar. I am going to quickly stop talking and hand it over to our expert panel here. But this is a session that's about unlocking VR's potential for industry. We recognize it is the end of the year here. And as we wrap up 2023, I think it's a nice opportunity for us to think about, what is the state of VR as we head into 2024? So today we've got a pretty high-level agenda, and we're going to be going through a whole lot of different topics. First of all, I'll let David introduce us to Virtualware and their many, many years of expertise in VR. They've been through the ringer, and they know what it takes to build and thrive as a VR company. And so I think there's a lot we can learn both from their past as well as their knowledge of the present and the future that we are walking into. Then we're going to go through the gauntlets. We're going to start with the top use cases for industrial VR in 2024. So these are the David and Iñaki approved list of the highest potential areas. But of course, there's lots more out there. These are some of the ones that we've seen get the most traction, have the most stickiness with our managers and our clients over time. The next one is going to be briefly talking about the technology driving VR innovation in industry, some of the newest technology and some of the old favorites that are enabling a lot of the innovation in the space. Finally, David will share a little bit about bringing an industrial VR project to market. What does it take to plan out and get buy-in for a project? And this is something where I think he's got more experience than pretty much anyone in this space. So he's got a lot to share about what it takes to grow an industrial VR business. The remaining 20-30 minutes we're going to spend on live Q&A. So we have a lot of experts. It seems like there's a lot of knowledge in this group. So we look forward to your questions, the discussion. Please feel free to use the Q&A feature if you have any specific questions you'd like. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat as well, but you have anything that you really want the panelists to see, please use that Q&A tab and use it liberally. We will be going through those as well. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to our two speakers. So we have David Moreno. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Virtualware. I will let him give his own credibility, but it's a long rap sheet of great work. And then we have Iñaki, our technical expert, joining us here today. He is the technical lead for Viru Software and a senior Unity developer. He's been with Virtualware for a long time and has a lot of knowledge of the kinds of work they've been doing. So with that, I will hand it over and I will hand screen sharing power to David. David, take it away.
Okay, let me first share my screen. There's it.
Okay. Looking good.
Okay, cool. So let's start by, as you mentioned, Derek, thanks Unity, for bringing us here. And thanks to you, the audience that are listening to us, a lot of people here. And that's great. I think we are all on the same page, or at least studying, but we are in the same industry. So I'm David Moreno. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Virtualware. We're a European leading virtual reality company with more than 2 decades of expertise. I've been in the company for almost 17 years. So actually I started as a developer, UX, UI designer, and then I don't know why I become part of the business side and becoming, Chief Marketing Officer. And with me is Iñaki, because we saw that they're like a mix of attending some technical side. And I think he can add a lot of value. He's been with us for more than 12 years. So we are very good friends together. And he has a strong experience in Unity, where we started working with Unity since 2010. So I think we are a good couple today to answer your questions and share all of our expertise. So first of all, Safe Harbor. Why? Because we are a public company. So this is not an intention so you want to buy stock from Virtualware. All this said, let's start by a brief company introduction. How we define ourselves. So we define our leaders in the VR for industry company. Why VR for industry? Because we've been here almost 20 years. Actually, next year is our 20th anniversary, along with Unity. So we were founded actually the same year with different approaches. And mainly for trying to bring and accelerate VR adoption in the enterprise. You can imagine that today you will see we're in a different situation than 20 years ago, although we are still in the early stages, of this technology in the enterprise. We are 45 people, mainly. We are located in our headquarters here in the north of Spain, in Europe, in the Basque Country, Bilbao, but we have also offices in Canada and the US and, companies and partners worldwide. As I mentioned, we are a public company. We became public on Euronext Paris on April this year. Why? Because we wanted to gain awareness as a company and trust because we think that this is a long run for corporations when they start applying VR and introducing VR. This is not a one-off. So you need to have a trusted partner, and this is a way so they see us as a trusted company for their long journey. Some of the latest recognition in our business strategy until 2019, we were creating on-demand content, specific needs in regards of VR, in 2008, augmented reality, the mixed reality, immersive technologies, specific needs. So I want to have this simulation for this. I'm attending this event. I would like to bring this virtual or my assets in virtual reality so I can showcase that. We were doing that until 2019. But that year, we shifted our strategy and we became a platform providers. That's Viru. And actually, Iñaki is the technical lead of our VR platform, mainly to accelerate that adoption to the enterprise and bring easier VR into them. So that year, we were the winners of the VR Enterprise Solution of the Year with Viru, the year we released it. And at the VR Awards, if you don't know the VR Awards, they are what I usually call the Oscars in virtual reality. So take a look at them. In 2021, we were awarded the VR most innovative VR company of the world, special recognition for our long trajectory. And then that's the Brandon Hall Technology Awards. Actually, last week we won another two. It's very human resources related, training related. And actually, that's going to be one of the top use cases that we are going to dive in later. And then our customers. So we have worked during our last 20 years in every industry. Okay, from energy, defense and aerospace, government, transportation, automotive, healthcare, even education. Today, we are going to talk about education, but we work a lot in higher education with universities and vocational educational training centers, bringing VR and shorten the gap between industry and education. I think this is for another webinar, but keep in mind, we are in the education industry, that this can add value to you too. And Viru, it's what we call a VR as a service platform. This kind of, SaaS move to virtual reality, subscription-based model. So, trying to lower the barriers so you can start with VR as a company. As we say, this is our 20 years of expertise with the challenges, all we suffer, all the barriers, all, conversation that we have with corporations in one product. And mainly with Viru, what you can do, it's a Unity-based platform. You can create, manage, and deploy VR and standardize VR in your organization. You will see that during our presentation, we put some of the things we've done with Viru as an example. And finally, in that intro, VR is now. This hashtag, VR is now, is a campaign that we launched in 2020 after spending the whole 2019 in mainly tech event, just having conversations with our customers, with potential, corporations that were thinking about starting with VR. They didn't know how. They didn't even know that there were corporations introducing VR in some of the top use cases that we're going to share later, gaining all the benefits of virtual reality. And this was to say as well that, okay, there were a lot, and still there are a lot of, studies like saying like the future is exciting. This technology is going to be in every day of our work life. Well, it's now, and you will see today with the different use cases. But let's watch the video first.
The future is exciting. Spatial computing will affect every discipline and every aspect of our lives. The way we relate with others will change. The way we interact with our environment will not be the same. The objects around us will think for us, make decisions for us, and will anticipate all our actions and wishes. The future is exciting, but what about the present? Who will solve the problems that concern us today? You will, with us, together. VR is now.
So this is about now. This is a reality. Let's go with the top VR use cases for 2024. This is some of the use cases that we think, okay? But, we had conversations with our customers that are not, these are not the use cases, but we think they are like top use cases. If you're thinking about starting VR or you have already started, probably you have done some of these use cases. And this is across industry. Maybe you see right now on a specific industry and a specific use case, but this could be, for any industry for sure. So it's unlimited. So let's start by training. Key, if you start like diving in, you have research a little bit, virtual reality, what that gives you is you can replicate any real, let's say, process. You can even replicate process that are not able even to replicate in the physical stuff, and you can train your people. So you can, deploy fully immersive realistic simulations today where you can perform different tasks initially. So this is very like hands-on task that virtual reality adds a lot of value. You can enhance your workforce capabilities and mitigate safe incidents. The good thing about virtual reality is you are in a safe environment. And actually, that gives you actually the possibility to not only for people safety, but also for the equipment safety. So you are reducing even costs because some of the trainees, they don't know what they are doing initially. So they are being trained actually, so they can damage the equipment. And that costs actually not only life costs or safety for you, but also, in regards of equipment. So 3 words here about the implementation of VR for training. You can gain efficiency for your workers, safety, and cost reduction. Even that, normally there are companies that you need to bring all your team to one location because you have a specific physical replica to train them. Like here, you will see the case of GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy. They have a specific, nuclear plant replicated, so they need to bring the people there. But you need to bring all of them and also the experts. So the expert, if they are training the trainers, they are not doing, let's say, they common job where they are even more value. Okay, so that's one of the cost reductions that you can manage applying virtual reality for training. So the challenge for GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy, this started in 2019. Okay, so they wanted to replicate a very realistic way for sure, a complex process, which is fuel movement, okay, in a nuclear power plant that requires hands-on experience. So you have a specific device. After this, you will see a picture where you need to move fuel like this way with that device, but you need to really have that hands-on experience with the specific device. Multiple people and roles involved, 2, 3 people, even 4 involved in the same process that should be in the same experience, physical, with the idea of reducing traveling expenses. What I mentioned before, not bringing all your people to one location, so you can even bring the training to the trainers if you want to, and increasing hands-on time. This was very important because they don't have enough time to really be hands-on being trained. So their solution was to have a full-scale simulation, large scale, like you will see some picture of, if you are in the entertainment industry, you've seen that location-based entertainment spaces, but this is it, but brought to the enterprise, to the industry, what we call like location-based industry. So a full-scale VR simulation, one scale, deploying the multi-user VR room, where you can have, actually, they have a physical replica of that refueling mast, that physical mast, connected to the virtual reality stuff. So when you are in the virtual reality space and you touch the virtual reality mast, you are touching the real one. And then when you are touching buttons, you are touching and feeling the real one. And allowing remote connectivity. You will see later in the state of the art that because of the evolution of the technology and the advancements, this is possible. So they don't need to have everybody in one location to be trained. So for instance, the trainers could be in the plants and coach their trainers or their trainees, in the virtual space. And this is important. They can have unlimited hands-on time because they can bring the trainees to the training to the trainees. And this is the picture. That's how it looks like. That virtual reality room environment, the physical replica that you see here. So this physical thing is connected to the virtual stuff. 2 different roles involved here, so they can move around, free roam experience, so very realistic experience, like the same that they can have in a physical process, and actually people connected remotely being part of the same VR session. So they are quite a pioneers in this. Actually, before they came here, they started with a feasibility study to really that connection between the real stuff, the real replica, and the virtual replica, that tactile feedback was real. So it feels like really moving the field. And that test was passed, and they moved to what they have today, which is quite, as I mentioned, unique in the industry, and I would say across industries. Then, top 2, engineering. Okay, so the same solution that you've seen now with this multi-user one scale environment, you can have review design sessions. So you can get your team faster on the same page. Why? Because they will understand complex concepts. Why? the dimensions. They told why you put this here, why you put the other way. You can have that discussions. You can move around, so you can identify those obstacles early, prototype, and reduce cost and expenses. Here, normally, there are physical replicas that are manufactured, a physical replica, one scale, to really do review designs. So this is clear that with virtual reality, you are very limited because you have a budget to spend in that physical replica. So in digital, you can have unlimited physical replicas and you can change them. Actually, you can change them in that review design VR session. So using VR for engineering, you can really experience the design, see the space, see how things relate to each other. And here, I didn't bring a specific use case. I just bring a specific need of that engineering department, which is, okay, this is great, freedom, speed, one scale, that's cool. But what I want is to bring my designs fast to that experience. And it's great because how we do it, through Vero, we are using, we have the Pixel plugin with Unity Industry, where you can take like hundreds of CAD, 3D BIM data. We import that into Unity. With Vero Studio, we have a Vero Studio, which is some kind of, SDK that we have in Unity to easily create content, and all your content in multi-user remote collaboration ready. So you open that in Unity to just export that, deploy using our VR players, and that in 5 minutes, you have your design in a multi-user remote collaboration experience. If you have that virtual reality room capabilities, you'll be able to move around or if not, you can be with your headset, even with your laptop in the same VR session quite fast. Actually, I didn't bring here the video, but we have some, which is in 5 minutes, depending on the size of the CAD file, you can bring that design into VR. And that's how they are using the engineering departments via Melee. And then all the other benefits, multi-user remote collaboration that we mentioned before. Let's move to the top 3, marketing and sales. So you have a 3D asset. You have a virtual reality environment that probably you have used that before for engineering, okay, for design your new asset. Then probably you would have trained your people before that asset in manufacture in virtual reality, and then you have that asset. And probably mainly that asset, you cannot bring that asset to your customers because maybe it's too big, but you can bring that virtual reality experience to them. And the idea of bringing virtual reality marketing and sales is to really shorten the sales cycle and bring a personalized experience. This is, this picture that I put in here, it's about, okay, this is a car, you can manage colors, you can manage things, so you can be in the same virtual reality experience with your customers and even internally with your design team, marketing team, sales team, and you can adapt and personalize that product for them in the same session. So then you can reduce that, okay, that is what I want. And if you go to an event where you cannot bring all your catalog of products, all the different features, okay, you can bring just one. That's it. And then here, let's experience this in virtual reality, like a car, for instance, and let's manage all the features that are possible, and you can see them, and even just say, okay, this is what I want. Exactly. And finally, research. This is about testing things. Okay, so I have a tool, which is a technology, which is virtual reality, where I can bring anything in 3D to just start exploring. Here I'm bringing a healthcare use case. We are working actually with Kessler Foundation since 4 or 5 years ago, and they started by using VR for new approaches for a specific syndrome, which is spatial neglect related to the eye and the visuals. And they started just experiencing it with VR. But I'm not going to tell you anything about that. Let them talk more about how they started and why they applied VR.
My name is Pei Chen. I'm a senior research scientist at Kessler Foundation in West Orange, New Jersey.
My name is Denise Kirk. I am a research scientist at Kessler Foundation in New Jersey.
I have been using virtual reality technology as a tool to develop treatment for a syndrome called spatial neglect. And this syndrome can happen after stroke, after brain injury. And virtual reality is a very good tool for me to create new environment or even new treatment approaches to address this disorder. Through working on this project for more than 3 years now, I know there are even more opportunities to create new treatment, new environments, to help patients to regain their function through a VR environment.
So VR is now. So these were, from our perspective, the top of, the use cases. There are more, but hopefully you will see that this is a reality. Okay, so there are real companies solving real problems with them using virtual reality technology.
Love it. Question for you, David. What are some examples that jump to mind of, importance use cases that we did not include in this list, but ones that you think are particularly exciting moving into next year?
Let me think a little bit, because we can, these are like more global, because it's mainly related to each department of a corporation. But actually, when you mention research and innovation, that could be a lot of more use cases, just specific simulations for whatever, for instance, or specific visualizations that with anything behind that it's related to engineering or a specific department of a company. So that's why I summarize that using, I would say, the verticals inside the organizations. But there is a top use case. It's not a use case, but we are seeing that with some of our customers, which is creating new digital or new VR solutions for your customers. Actually, some of the customers we are working with, they are utilizing VR internally, but they know that knowledge and that could become a product, and they're even creating products for their customers. So they are not even just taking all the advantages of virtual reality internally. They're even creating new revenue streams, which is in companies it's about business return of investment. Internally you will have it and you have it, but think about we have the expertise. Like for instance, Hitachi Nuclear Energy or Kessler Foundation, those are becoming products for the industry, quite new. So they are making the customers more competitive. So imagine as a corporation, the value that they are adding to the customers, and they are becoming unique if the rest of the companies don't follow them.
Yeah, I really like the research use case that you showed there, because I think it was a very, and it seems like a lot of this group is from the games industry or still works very heavily in there.
Yeah, actually, they are using games. So they are using specific games. You see, the monkey just throwing an apple. So because they have this visual thing, so they need to catch it using a headset and with the hand tracking. Yes, in that case, because this is also about engagement. I didn't mention that. And virtual reality engage people. And we have a testimonial for some of our customers that say, this is fun. Training is fun. It's been a long time that training is not fun. So now I can get not only, the new generations, but actually the old generations. Because imagine that being, trained the same way for 20, 25, 30 years. And now you have something new, which is, wow, this is cool. And actually something that you can, share with your, kids or whatever, it's great, that engagement. And that's very important, for instance.
Yeah, I think it's also one of the biggest drivers behind VR technology. A lot of people will be like, hey, why do I need to use this in 3 dimensions? Why do I need to be in the experience as opposed to watching this on a screen? We worked with a train pilot training company who, they had brought someone in to try out their simulator, and it was on a new train they had never driven before. They used the experience in VR. They said, okay, that was fine. I guess it'll be kind of similar. Then when he got in the cockpit on that first day, he said to his trainers, he was like, I remembered where the buttons were. My muscle memory was intact, which is obviously incredible. And we're going to talk a little bit about tactile feedback in the future as well. But yeah, I think this is one of the most exciting spaces for, that blending of the line between, the mixed reality and virtual reality. Anyways, I'll leave it back to you. I'll let you keep rolling here.
Actually, we are going to talk more about that mixed reality thing, because this VR is now, but you will see now with the tech advances that we are going to touch a little bit about, or talk a little bit more about, mixed reality. So again, VR is ready for companies' day-to-day operations. Keep that in mind. So in regards of technology, some advancement in regards of computer power. So now new chipsets that have evolved a lot. Qualcomm, for instance, they are in every headset, I would say. So you can have very high quality graphics, and then battery life, more battery life. That's very important in the enterprise. When I have discussions with other actually, companies in the enterprise where the new device is launched to the market, okay, tell me the battery life. 1-2 hours, for the enterprise, quite complicated. Imagine that you need to, in operations, to, manage, training for 20, 50, 100 people. You need to be constantly, changing, for instance, the headset, and it's a bit difficult for operations. So this is great for operations. And if you would like, because we are not going to dive in a little bit more here, but if any of the audience would like to know more about what this applies in regards of high quality, Pico, actually they did, that's the link. They did a great job just showcasing to us, the difference and the evolution and why this is great for the VR industry. Then again, I mentioned Pico, headset manufacturer. In regards of headset and VR headset, we've seen in Oculus was launched a great evolution. You can imagine 15, 20 years ago, the kind of headset that we had, but now we have like main advancements in optical displays, large resolutions, field of view, optical tracking systems. And with that tracking systems, right now we are seeing that instead of just having a virtual reality headset or a mixed reality headset, they are becoming all-in-one, which is great for all of us. So you can have virtual reality and mixed reality capabilities in one headset. Like, for instance, you see in the picture, like the Meta Quest 3, HTC Focus 3 Plus XR Elite, Pico for Enterprise. And actually, they have that extraordinary balance between cost and performance. Because the thing was like 15 years ago, to buy a headset, it was like, 15,000, for instance. And, and you can imagine that the futures weren't like what they are today. And now they are quite cheap. So it's not about they are expensive. So it's about that performance that they can bring, and it's huge. And another important thing, and actually, we're here today, thanks to you, to Unity, it's software tools. This is very important. So we started with Unity in 2010. Previously to that, actually, when I was a programmer, I was programming with other engine before that. But software tools are very, very important. So you can create, manage, and deploy content. And actually, in the enterprise, because we use Unity a lot, we focus that, hey, if you're an enterprise, you're a startup, your Unity should be your standard real-time 3D engine. And from there are like solutions and platforms like Vir, for instance, that can allow you very VR specific, enterprise specific, give you all the potential of VR and mixed reality combined. Or we have ArborXR, which is a company that I know pretty well, to device management, content management, that allows you to really, in operations, make things easier. So this is the key, actually. The technology is ready, headset, chipsets, that without the software tools, we couldn't be in the position that we are today. And actually, right now, Iñaki, my colleague, is going to share a little bit about those software, technically speaking, I think with some of the use cases that we have with Viru as an example. So Iñaki, just jump on the stage, all yours.
Yeah, thank you, David. So we know that hardware abstraction layers like OpenXR accelerate the developer adoption and integration of existing commercial headsets. We started testing the OpenXR implementation of Unity from the early stages when it was in preview. And since then, it was clear to us that it was the way to go, as it prepares us to be future-proof. All major manufacturers use this technology, allowing us to make our platform compatible with a wider range of devices without additional work. And we use OpenXR for tracking systems, such as tracking the headsets and controllers, but also for tracking other aspects, such as hand tracking features. Even more, we know that some of our customers actually got running Vero in VR headsets that we didn't have available for testing ourselves, and everything works seamlessly. So we know for sure that using OpenXR is the way to go in Unity and in general. Yeah. So regarding the VR user experiences, in different devices tend to converge, so it is becoming easier to develop once and deploy to almost any. So in Vero, we provide a set of components to make it easy to integrate the most typical interactions of the VR environment, and using these components, interacting with virtual world elements by clicking, touching, or grabbing them is as easy as using a single component and getting the same behavior on any platform, be it keyboard and mouse, virtual reality controllers, hand tracking, or cave systems using fly sticks, of which we will talk a little bit more later. So for this, the way to go is using Unity's new input system. That is key for us. And more recently, we are using XR Interaction Toolkit as well, also for Unity, because they are a very complete tool for implementing interactions in VR.
So have you seen it's great because we are taking all the advantages that Unity is bringing here. So if you're in the audience, for sure you work with Unity. So this is great because we are using all that Unity provides and actually adapting that to our business using a VR platform. So thanks, Iñaki. The next thing, connectivity. This is great because thanks for the new advancement in connectivity with, that allows us to have higher resolution, improved tracking and latency, which is very important in multi-user, remote collaboration via experiences. So everything's more realistic. And actually the case is that, as you've seen with GE, Hitachi, Nuclear Energy, and that video room multi-user deployment, that now we have moved from single to multi-user VR. And this is great because most of the use cases that I mentioned before are team related. So you need to have more than one person involved in that process, or you want to. And in the past, it was like single user using a PC and a headset, then a kind of room scale. And now you have even large scale and multi-user VR experience. So collaborative, remote collaboration capabilities, and even that VR room deployment, adding a very realistic experience, one scale in VR. And finally, I think Iñaki is going to get a little bit more attention this, but I don't really know what VR caves are. Okay, in 20 years ago, this was a key immersive VR experience in the enterprise. And we brought this here because this is something that we've done in our latest video 2.4 release. We have integrated, that VR caves, which are multi-projection systems mainly, that you see in the back of the picture, later on we see a video, with the new VR headsets. So if you're in a company that you have been working with VR for a long time and you have that cave, you can combine and create content for the VR headset and have that seamless integration and VR environment. But Iñaki, let's get a little bit more in detail about this.
Yeah, thank you, David. So as David mentioned, since Vero latest version 2.4 released this year, we have added support for VR cave systems. We have worked with companies such as Barco for projection systems, and tracking is based on ASG tracking, implemented their plugin for Unity, which is the DTrack plugin. And we think this can revitalize cave systems that at the software level may fall into obsolescence due to the difficulty of generating content for them. This way, the content created with Vero, both new and existing content, is compatible with execution in cave systems and can share online sessions along with people in VR headsets. So this way it's possible to develop content that works similarly both in caves and virtual reality headsets, and this may help reduce the iteration time between tests. So there is no need to test every small change in a VR cave installation. Content developers may test in Unity Engine in the editor in VR, and then further space out the testing sessions in the cave installations. So
I think that's one of the keys, right, Iñaki? I mean, that having that possibility. So if you're in the VR cave, you have understood this and the problems that we are trying to solve. But I think let's put the video on so you will understand what we are meaning with that, I guess. So that's a VR cave, what you see in the back. And that's one person with the VR headset. And then we have actually our CTO, Sergio Barrera. That's a VR cave. So now you can create content and have that virtual reality experience in VR rooms, just a single headset, or in a VR cave. So
the VR
as
cave
we are running out of time,
it's so exciting.
Derek, go ahead.
Oh, it's so exciting for if anyone here has been to a trade show showing off something in XR and had that awkward experience of like, okay, what do you see now? Okay, tell me what you see. Okay, walk over there, I guess, and press this button. The VR cave feels like such a great thing for trade shows in the future. If you're ever working on a sales and marketing experience, it'll be perfect. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to cut in. Exactly. Just very excited from having had that awkward interaction dozens of times. Very excited for the cave.
Yeah, exactly. So again, VR is ready. VR is now. Again, I'm constantly mentioning the same. So you see the state of the technology. Virtual reality is mature enough to be into the day-to-day business operations in companies. The use cases you've seen, those are real companies. But now, if you're thinking about how can I start with VR, okay, and grow VR in my organizations. So some insights from our expertise, working with different, corporations worldwide since, 2004. So think big, because normally people start thinking small. Think big means, okay, now you've seen the capabilities, all you can do, all, the potential use cases that you can have in your company. And start identifying all of them. So you can see, okay, maybe for training, for these 5 processes, maybe you can include this for engineering, because we can use this for marketing in some of the events that we could do every year. Identify potential use cases, all of them. And then think about who is going to lead that VR strategy. This is one of the issues, that when you want to scale what you've done, who is going to take care of this? Because if it's you, that's great. But maybe you are going to be the person supporting this strategy and pushing, but it's going to be all the team leading this. So bring them as soon as possible so they are involved in this. Because if not, maybe later you can't find any, or as they haven't been involved since the very beginning, they say, I don't want to be involved in this. Second, find a long-term VR partner and solution. That's why with this, we became public to gain awareness and trust, because we know that this could be into the daily operation. So this is a long term. So if you today can start with a VR strategy, as you have a CRM for sales, so you can have a VR strategy and a standardized VR across your own organization. So you will have a company to support you, and with a solution on a platform that helps you to create, manage, and deploy that content. And another key thing, it's about, will you have an internal team? Why we shifted our strategy in 2019 to really become a platform providers? Because we saw that companies were starting to have teams internally working actually in Unity to create content. Why? Because that is faster for them. It's less expensive for them. So they can manage the whole strategy, but normally they need somebody with the expertise to support them. So this is very important. And actually, we really believe, and we are seeing that in the long term, companies are going, and that's why we think this is going to be accelerated. And this is great for all of us, for VR developers, for VR companies, because we will have more companies to work with. We will have more companies. If you are working at a VR, as in a VR company, for instance, or you are a VR developer, you will be able to work for a company, even for a large corporation. So this is great for us. And you as a corporation, you will have a lot of, I would say, audience to really bring in, and you will have the possibility of all the benefits that I mentioned before. After thinking big, okay, let's start small. This is the way to start, but think big first, which is develop a POC. Normally, small budget, a specific goal. This is very important. For instance, for GE Hitachi Nuclear Energy, it was that tactile feedback. Okay, and actually they did a feasibility study. So you say, okay, which is the goal? If I do this faster, if I don't know, if I can, I don't need to travel, if my equipment is not damaged, measure that. And in the meantime, just try to networking with your peers, internal decision makers, and potential users. Why? Because you will need them. You will need the IT team for sure. Maybe you will need to explain this to your boss, to explain this to the training department, to the trainers, to engineering team, because after this, if you really want to scale and scale fast, we see the third phase, this is that if you haven't done the previous thing well, you will not be able to do it. So if you haven't found initially identify the person, the company, the solution, and networking with your peers, when you start to scale that, no, we don't have the budget for next year, or I don't think this is the tool, or why have you measured that? Because I think you should have measured these other things. But if you have managed the previous thing first, you will be able to scale fast and bring this for, maybe you start with 5 people to 500 people to 30 locations or whatever. So keep that in mind. These are some of the things that we learned in our journey with the different challenges and barriers that we have with our customers to really accelerate the adoptions. Because the main problem is not the start small, it's more related to the think big, but mainly to scale fast. Because when you as a company, you see that this is working and you're going to get the benefits, you want to scale that like this. And you need that kind of things, thoughts to scale that fast. So again, thank you. Thank you for joining us. More than 400 people here. I love that. I think we are on the same page. Again, #VR is now. There you have our contact from me and Iñaki, and happy to jump on the Q&As. Derek.
Yes. Okay. We have so many questions, and thank you for running us through that, David. Really great content. And now we get into the fun part because we have so many questions from this group. And honestly, I am so glad to have this this pool of talent. I said in the chat, please keep posting your LinkedIns. Please keep sharing those out. This
That's
is
great.
the
Let's
pool
create a
of
community,
future
a great
thought
community
leaders.
from here. Exactly.
Seriously, this is an amazing set of people, and I'll make sure that I post my LinkedIn as well. But first, time to moderate some of these questions. So we have so many here. I'm going to go ahead and group a couple of the big ones. One of the first ones I'm going to ask about is around headsets, specifically around factory ready and outdoor ready headsets. Obviously, walking a factory floor with a VR headset on is often a liability and in many places non-OSHA compliant. So what is the current state of, factory floor ready hardware? And what would you recommend to someone who's trying to, build out something a little safer for their customers?
We actually, for instance, in every factory you have some restrictions. Depending on those restrictions, maybe, if you go to oil and gas factory, you have the restriction that even you can bring any of the headsets internally there, because they need to have a specific, specifications. So initially, in regard of VR or mixed reality, it's about the robust of the headset. And it's about, because I've seen, for instance, some corporations are using, mixed reality with the HoloLens 2, I guess, for operations in the factory. That's very clean. So the environment, the lighting and it's like perfect for that headset. But when you have complicated environments, it's a bit complicated. That's why actually I didn't bring here any kind of maintenance operations outdoor, okay? Because they are still, they need, the headset need to evolve a little bit, because in that case, there are like many things that could happen. Lighting, they fall down, the sound. So it's quite difficult. Initially, you can do use cases, and we have a lot of use cases, actually, and you can find use cases. But when you want to scale that, they normally have like the same issues. If you don't have like wide environment, which is quite clean and not so restrictive, and that. But for instance, you go to energy, it's normally you have specific restrictions for corporations.
Yeah.
But in regards of VR, if you're going to use it for training, you don't need to be, you have a specific space. If you want to a virtual reality room, or you are in a normal room. So it's different. If you wanted to for engineering, you are not specifically in that factory floor. So in regards of headset, because right now, okay, we are talking about the enterprise, but still the headset are very consumer focused. Although these companies that I mentioned, like HTC Vive, Meta, or Pico, they have the enterprise business, and they have the specific, features for the enterprise, but the whole, it's very consumer focused. So in some cases, it's difficult to find, a proper device. There are, but it's difficult to find. And if you find one, maybe you don't have all the capabilities that we mentioned before that these more, let's say, consumer percentage devices can have.
Yeah, we've definitely seen more investment on the AR side of the aisle, largely because, that's when it benefits you to be on the factory floor in the mix when you can see the environment around you. The HoloLens 2 has probably had the most mods created. Visual Live, a company we acquired a couple of years ago, actually used to make a hard hat that you could clip onto your headset in order to make things a little bit safer as you were kind of doing construction walkthroughs.
And actually, we have another company, for instance, which is RealWear, which is a different kind of headset, which is very industry focused. And in the niche, that headset is perfect for that kind of operations and maintenance.
Truly. And if we keep seeing more investment, you guys have all noticed over the past year, and certainly with some of the announcements that are coming up next year, pass-through is becoming very, very important. VR headsets are becoming mixed reality headsets. If that is meant to allow for more new opportunities of work, I think we're going to see more mainstream investment from the manufacturers who are trying to make this into something that is officially supported, to be outside, to be on site.
Actually,
it's
we
certainly
mentioned that
early
before.
days.
Exactly, all in one headset. And actually right now, you can have, in our case, one of the things that we provide with, we have integrated mixed reality capabilities in Viru, you can have a session with people in virtual reality and people in mixed reality. So you can do that right now in that session. If you have, for instance, an XR Elite or a Meta Quest 3, so you have that pass-through and you will be, maybe you don't see the walls, you just see the specific element in the middle and you walk around and, the watch with the headset in virtual reality. So that's great. You can do that right now. In the future, I think we will see the improvement in quality. And when they really get into the enterprise, we will see even the evolution of more robust headsets, although they are robust, but you need to take care of them.
Absolutely. Speaking of headsets, there was a question around, getting ready for multiple, and Yaki, you might be the right person to answer this one. Obviously, we are in a world right now where we are getting ready for some big new headsets from some major brands. And we want to make sure that as we invest in our VR experiences, they are able to be deployed to multiple places. So we got a couple questions around what's the best way to make sure that I can deploy to a lot of headsets. And then do we have any kind of thoughts on what headsets, are supported and which ones aren't, and how you kind of work around that as a VR professional?
Yeah, for sure. So as mentioned earlier, I think the most important step here, the most important thing to take into account when developing content for VR is using abstraction layers. So for example, Unity has its own plugin for OpenXR. So I think this is a must these days. So up until a few maybe years already. So every vendor had its own plugin, and you needed to be compatible with all of them, and maybe even have like different projects, because sometimes you need to deploy once for every platform. But now the way to go for sure is using OpenXR, and that's a very good starting point, because all the newest headsets, and for sure the headsets coming in the future, will support OpenXR. So this is the way to go, developing content today and making sure it will work on headsets to come. So as we said earlier, there are some of our customers have like very specific, very rare VR headsets. We didn't try it because we did not have those for testing, and it works for them. So for sure, OpenXR is the way to go, is the way to start. Also, OpenXR works over Unity's new input system. This is also a very good tool, because it allows you to add another abstraction layer over input. So you can code your XR content for VR headsets, and also for desktop environments, which usually is a needed platform for customers, because sometimes they do not have the ability to always join content from VR. So that's another very important tool, the new input system, or there are other tools that may give you an abstraction of input. And then we are also starting to implement also from Unity the XR interaction toolkit. This works over OpenXR. It's a very powerful tool for us. So up until a few months or so, we have like our own interaction system completely built from scratch. And now some of these pieces we are starting to replace with XR interaction toolkit, because it's very, very powerful.
Yeah,
actually, Derek, you mentioned that this is a pain point, and this was a pain point in the enterprise. So, a couple of years ago, so we were working with a company just developing one connect with one specific device. And then, a new device, even from the same brand, a new device is coming. So do I have, company, do I have to invest again, rebuilding this content for the new device, maybe another 50%? Yes. And with that abstraction that we try actually to bring that's some of the things that Unity does, and we try to bring with Vito, which is that, hey, don't worry about the new devices, new versions, new kind of interactions. Just focus on the content, because we will take care that this is going to work in future devices. So don't think about that. And that evolution is huge to really simplify and accelerate that option in the enterprise.
Love it. Another headset question, and this is one that I will take a step back from, because we love all of our hardware partners, and we love them all equally and for their own distinct reasons. Rio asks, what is the best VR headset in terms of performance in 2023 and to 2020 as we move into 2024? And I'm sure this is a personal preference thing, so I'll let you guys, you can both have a turn.
So this is for sure also difficult to answer from our part. But yeah, we probably need to mention that there are like two categories, right? Because you have the standalone all-in-one devices, and then you have the enterprise or desktop headsets. So if you are looking for the absolute best like resolution on the screen and the best display, you will probably want to go for this kind of more specialized devices, right? But then, of course, now there are more popular devices that are the standalone ones. And yeah, so if we were to answer this, we will also probably, it's a personal preference.
Listen,
and actually, we have like different preferences depending on the specific deployment.
Yes.
Because for instance, if you go for the virtual reality room, we started with one specific device because 8 months ago, that was the best device with optical tracking to have that multi-user VR experience in large scale. And then, as everything, this is like the phone. So every year you have new headsets with improvements. So in our case, it depends. We normally say, okay, depending on your case, of budget, deployment, how many, people are going to be involved. We just share, hey, the platform is available from any of these case headsets. If you're going to deploy in the virtual reality room, we suggest this, and we are going to go with this because that's more on our side. But if you're going to have like a single player, like you are going to manage your own headset. Hey, if you have your headset from 1 year ago, that's great. You're going to get the capability, just any of the headset that we mentioned before, and even as Iñaki mentioned, others that because of OpenXR, are compatible with our platform. So even we haven't even tested that. So you test, it works, so that's great. So it's more about a specific, needs, resolutions, and then the specific. That's the needs that you are looking for in your solution. In that case.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question on platforms here. We've got a couple questions around WebXR and times when WebXR becomes more viable than headsets. So any thoughts there? How have you guys implemented WebXR, if at all? What is the market appetite for WebXR? What are its pros and cons?
Let me change a little bit from WebXR to CloudXR, for instance. Okay, because we have already tested our video solution using NVIDIA CloudXR. So our platform actually it's ready to be cloud-based with this software as a service, virtual reality server as a service. So you don't really need anything to be directly connected to your headset and have that experience without having a PC power or whatever. Just everything managed on the cloud. That is ready, but I think still the technology, which is the cloud thing, the business behind that, and all that kind of thing needs to evolve a little bit more to bring to that phase. So we are not web related. We are more standalone and PC powered because we like very complex environments and solutions in the enterprise. But that doesn't mean that WebXR can add value to you. A crystal thing from me here, for marketing experience, a very huge audience here, that could be a great solution because everybody have it, with a browser. So again, depends on because this is like forever in the enterprise, a specific need. So if you have this specific need, find that specific, or find that solution for that need. So if WebEx add value to you, that's great. If you need a standard version, PC power, and even in the future, cloud XR thing, that is going to combat any of them. Again, it's depend of what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna pivot away from headsets a little bit here. I'm gonna talk about deploying of VR experiences. This is I'm piggybacking off Chris Curran, your question here on are there any IT cybersecurity concerns with using Steam? I'd more just like to know, when it comes to deploying experiences for enterprise, it's presumably a different experience to selling a game through the existing channels. So what is your experience of, using games publishing platforms where people would find many other VR experiences versus building your own installers? How do you get your software out there, and what security concerns do you have when it comes to using the big established platforms?
We have security concerns, typical IT things, but actually last year or 2 years ago, we got the ISO, which is the standard 27001, which is international security standard. Why?
Nice.
Because we didn't, for video and for the whole virtual reality processes. Why? Because we are working in a specific niches, which is, the information, it's even, government related. And that it's a way that, okay, so you have this, okay, let's move forward. Let's start, talking, you move forward in the next step. So you don't need to discuss, because we had in the past with the IT team, so why is this secure? Ports, whatever, that kind of IT thing. But with that certificate, which is if you are a VR developer and you're working for the enterprise, these kind of ISO certifications are great because that validates what you do as a company, and that validates your solutions, and even this in a specific in regards to cybersecurity. So we had, as any IT thing or digital thing in a corporation who is going to be connected and accessing data, sensitive data, but with that, it's like, okay, But okay, you can imagine that to get that certification, we had to do a lot of job behind in our platform and as a company in our processes. I know, Iñaki, you would like to add something in a specific in regard of SteamVR or whatever.
Yeah, what I wanted to mention is, so for us, cybersecurity wise, is probably that our customers, some of them usually run critical stuff in VR environments. So more than SteamVR, which I don't think there is any specific issue with that, is being online. So what we found out is that usually we need to be able to provide services that are sometimes that at least are capable to work without internet connection. And so some of the devices that work on SteamVR do provide like ability to work with offline SteamVR. So that's something that we needed to take into account.
Absolutely. All right, we are 1 minute away from the hour here. David and Iñaki, if you guys are available to stick around for an extra 5 minutes, we can keep answering another few questions here.
Yes,
but in case anyone had a 9 a.m. or whatever time it is for you meeting, thank you so much for joining us. Please fill out the little questionnaire we had on the side there. And let us know. Come talk to us. Put in the chat what kind of webinar you'd like to see next. This was obviously a very high level kind of get ready for 2024. Yeah. But if you want to see specific tutorials, if you want to see deep dives on case studies, we really want to know what kind of content to put out there. This is one of our first industry focused XR webinars. So we're going to keep making these and we want to make them as specific and useful for you guys as possible. So keep us posted. Thank you all so much for joining. And we really appreciate it. Thank you, David and Iñaki as well. I say it like we're signing off.
Thanks for the invite. And hopefully, again, VR is now. This is our moment for all of us. Thank you.
Use the hashtag, everybody. Awesome. Okay. So back into, thanks for the kind words, everybody. Let's see. Next question on the list here. Upgrading Unity LTS versions. Iñaki, this one's probably for you. When upgrading, is that a big risk for you? How do you go about kind of migrating your VR projects from one LTS version to the next?
Yeah, so the way we handle Unity's versioning is we usually jump into the next version once the LTS has been released. And so doing that we are jumping like every version, it's not a big thing for us. So it's usually easy and it's not a matter of, it's just a matter of some putting in some work. And then regarding that, we also see, because of how our platform works, where people that develops content for it, their content is loaded into our VR runtime. So we need to ask the content developers to be on the same version that we are, so the same Unity version. So this is usually never a problem. And for updating our content, so the content developers need to update both Unity version and both our platform version, our Vero version. And we try to provide always tools, as Unity always does, when possible, to automatically migrate content. So yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible for developers. Yeah.
Awesome, great. Okay, we're going to keep rapid firing through these. Folks want to know about training for learning VR, specifically for, the aerospace or the automotive industry. We know that there's lots of games-focused boot camps and other training courses out there. How does one break into this space? How does one build credibility in this space?
You mean how you can build that credibility that this is real? I mean, that training in those
yeah,
industries?
More like if you are a developer looking to, get the job or learn the skills, is there any kind of training platform for someone looking to break into automotive and aerospace?
Yeah, so probably having like a strong, maybe not a strong, but an enough developed background as a programmer. That's probably for sure a good way to start, even though you could also specialize in other areas such as modeling or developing user experiences and so on. But for sure, if you want to get your hands dirty programming, you probably coming from a background where you have learned to develop in at least a language. And then for sure, the way because we also sometimes have some people that we want to teach or mentor. We, apart from providing our own training, we also recommend Unity Learn platform, because specifically there are courses to begin with. And yeah, so that's a good point to start. So if you want to start developing for VR with Unity, absolutely, Unity Learn is like the way to go.
And then you have the Unity certification, which is like, some of our actually Iñaki has that. It's like a certificate that you have the knowledge. And I'm the marketing guy. From the marketing side, if you are looking to be in the top of the industry and you want to be a developer, start posting things related to the automotive. I mean, you have done an interaction in a car, post that, on LinkedIn or social networks, mention that, automotive related things. So start to position yourself over there as a very VR specialized in that industry, because all that you are doing could be actually some of the things that we have when we go to a customer, and in some cases they don't understand. Okay, if we show a car, they don't see the relation if we don't show an engine in the industry. Okay, and it's the same. Is that virtual reality rule, multi-user, the same thing, just train, but they need to see what they see every day. So if you want to be in any of them, position yourself, okay, take the knowledge, as Iñaki mentioned, take that certification and start posting and doing things and demos related to that industry. My advice from the marketing side.
Yeah, honestly, this is, I think it's a really good insight. The qualifications required to be a great industry dev from all of the devs we've worked with, generally it's the same as being a great games dev as well. In fact, I would wager that most of the industry, including a lot of the people on this call who have VR experience, came from the games world, were hobbyists or professionals, and then moved to industry. Be it for there's less crunch oftentimes in some of these spaces.
And now there is an opportunity. I think I mentioned that before. That now, I mean, if you're in the gaming, you can work in the industry. That's it. That you can have a wider, and that's it. The same knowledge that you have for games, it's just shifting the kind of things that you are doing in Unity. More industry. So the content that you are managing, the multi-user thing or whatever that you manage maybe for creating a game, instead of a game, bring that to a car, an engine, an aircraft, I don't know, a plant, a factory, and that will make you be part of these internal teams that companies are looking for, and even companies with expertise. So, Iñaki mentioned that being part of a VR company and having that experience and take more experience for people that have been there for a long time, it's critical. I've been here for 17 years. I know Iñaki's in 12 years ago. So I've seen the evolution of almost everybody here in the developer side. And it's huge when you have next to you, Iñaki with a newcomer to the company. So you in 1 year, you will know more than maybe being, alone on another company, so expertise, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So in the chat, they are mentioning for sure the portfolio is more important than. So for sure, try to start working as soon as possible. If it's not in a company, doing your own projects, and then for sure, presenting the work you have done will be for sure the key aspect.
That's the way to get in that company. Exactly, with your portfolio. And if you relate that portfolio, what I mentioned before, to the specific niche, that content, then they will see, okay, this could be part of my business.
And I'll give you a pro tip for anyone looking to make that jump. Look for innovation teams. Innovation labs, innovation teams tend to be the parts of big established companies that are investigating the new technology. And virtually all of them have VR, metaverse, something on their roster of things that they are investigating. So if you're looking for, making that jump across the aisle, look for innovation roles, those types of, 3D visualization roles. That can be one of the keywords to find. Yes, James, every fan company has an innovation team for sure.
Definitely.
We have a really interesting question from Paolo, which is more for the VR startups in the audience here. Is there any advice on how to find investment as a VR company? How do you prove yourself not just to your client but to your investors?
It's always difficult, and for us, I would say, as a large company in the industry, very special. It's always difficult. Again, the key thing here is like, if you pitch them about the state of the art, it's great. Technology is ready, everything is ready. So companies are starting to introduce VR in the enterprise. If you are focusing in the enterprise, it's more about your product and your team behind that. But it's difficult for everybody. So it's, specific tips. Normally you need to have a great approach, great product, something that you can show, and a great team. Because normally investors, they want to have that long-term investment, and the team is key. And actually right now, one of the problems that we can have is that there are a lot of companies, okay? And I pitched this with actually I've been recently in many events, and they came to me, hey, are you suffering this? Because we've been here for 20 years, we are in the same, we suffer the same. We are a lot here, okay? That means that, and everybody, as marketers in the market side, we say, hey, we are the best, we have the best platform. So you need to really demonstrate that in a different way. So because if not, they're going to say, why are you different from the other startup here? Because now it's like, it's a huge, and now immersive, I'm not going to talk about AI, but there are a lot here. Why are you so different? And the main thing is that the team, the expertise of the team, and maybe the product and your focus and commitment, and for sure your customers. But if you are a startup and you still don't have any customer, well, you need to focus on the other sides of product and team. But start, gaining customers are important for that. But again, it's difficult for everybody. There are a lot of companies here looking for that to try to be profitable. I would say initially with an investment. We started locally. So we started in 2004 working locally. We haven't had any kind of external investment yet. We got public, just organic growth. We had tough times, but we start locally, and then from the Basque Country, working with the government and other institutions here, some company. Then we expand to Spain. Then we expand a little bit to Europe. Then 2013, we moved to South America with the crisis that we have here and globally. Then we moved to Europe. Then we moved to the US and Canada. Then we started working with construction, then tourism and heritage, health, education. Then we moved to the industry with the industry 4.0 thing. So it's like constantly moving. So you can get to a point that they say, okay, this is the company I want to invest in.
Yeah, in that classical marketing term, it's finding your beachhead, expanding out, and then finding that next beachhead to land on. It's definitely a grind, and if people are interested, we could definitely pull together, a panel of speakers with Virtualware and others at different stages of growth. That's kind of like, hey, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you survive in a very, very crowded VR space? That hyper growth toolkit could be something interesting to explore.
And the moment was different because now, and the things that we are doing today with this webinar, which is great and we are very excited, we are trying to have a bigger cake for everybody. Because as I mentioned, we are at the early stages of companies starting to implement this. This is not gaming. This is in the enterprise. So if they see the value, because they have value, you've seen all the presentation of the use case, the state of the technology. If companies start, having value with this, then they will need more VR developers. Why? Because they're getting value, so they need more from the industry. So the industry is going to get bigger, and that is going to be beneficial for all of us.
Love it. Okay, one last technical question, and then I think some people are starting to drop off. By the way, everyone, last call to put in your LinkedIns. Make sure that you connect with each other. As we said, this is a growing industry. These are the movers and shakers, so feel free to introduce yourselves. Okay, complex environments. So headsets obviously have limited capabilities in terms of the hardware power, especially the standalone headsets. So how do you handle big and complex digital twins or complex environments with an acceptable frame rates? And also sometimes with network interference, how do you manage large environments, small device?
So I think here there are like two possible alternatives, right? Working with standalone headsets, that's something we have sometimes do. And here for sure, the important thing is to, of course, iterate fast and deploy a lot to the headsets. So make sure you are always running on a good frame rate. And for this in Unity, probably you should be using Universal Render Pipeline, which is the render pipeline that Unity recommends for working in VR. And we could go into more technical insights, right? Like using a low number of batches, like sharing a lot of materials when possible. But what we did most in Virtualware is working with desktop headsets. So in the beginning, it was with backpacks, laptops running on a backpack. So you could get free roaming experiences working with powerful VR experiences, right? And nowadays, David mentioned earlier, we are working both with CloudXR, excuse me, and also with devices that will allow you to do a streaming of the image in local networks, right? And this is probably nowadays the most maybe conformant, or maybe probably the best way to have like high-end graphics, but in small devices without cables.
And
Yeah.
actually, we started with this PC Power. Normally, you start with standalone versions. Why we started with PC Power? Because we were exactly recreating complex scenarios, and we need all the power from the PC. So we started that with the backpack and then cables, and now we stream that through that 5G, 6G network. And actually, we are working now on the standalone version of VROOM. But we started with PC Power because of that, because you've seen the Yihi Itachi example. For that you need high graphics, high-end complexity, environments, processes. So you need all the power that a PC can give you. Maybe in the future, sooner than later, we will see what we mentioned before, that a headset can manage even more high quality graphics. But initially, that's why we started the other way around, because of the needs of our industry customers. But now we are moving to having a wider range from standalone version as well, because we saw that our customers or potential customers are demanding that as well. So they can have both possibilities. Very high-end, realistic, lighting related thing, complex, or less, using a standalone version.
Love it. Okay, we still have a bunch of questions, but unfortunately, I think 15 minutes over, and we should probably be wrapping it up here. We will be trying to send emails to most leftover questions. I tried to get through all the big ones, but once again, I'd really like to thank David and Iñaki for joining us here today. We really appreciate having you on and all your expertise in this field. And thank you to all of our attendees, everyone being so participatory in the chat and the Q&A. You've been a lovely audience. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here. Thank you, Derek, and thanks to the audience. There you have our contact. So please reach out to us. We'll be happy to share our insights. So just share and have discussions with you guys. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, everyone. We will chat again soon. Stay tuned for the next ones.